a list written to stop the burnings, a list copied to start the summoning. This is the Ars Goetia. In 1577, a man who had spent his life arguing that witches did not exist printed 69 demons by name. Inside the book, he wrote to stop women being burned. He thought that saying the whole apparatus out loud was how you killed it. 400 years later, that same list is the working handbook of the practice he was trying to destroy. Open the Lesser Key of Solomon at its first section, and what you get is a catalogue. 72 entries, each one a spirit with a title, a shape, a number of legions under him, and a list of things he can be made to do. Teach astronomy, find buried money, burn a city, restore a lost reputation. It is the most copied demon list in the world, and it is printed under the name of a king who had been dead for roughly 2,500 years before anyone wrote a word of it. You do not have to believe in a single one of them to sit through this. The books exist. The men who compiled them left their names, their jobs and their dates on the title pages. Take it as history, and it still works. Keep one piece of arithmetic in your pocket as we go. The oldest version of this catalogue runs to 69 spirits. The Lesser Key counts 72. Somewhere between the two books, one spirit was dropped, and 4 were added. And once the catalogue is finished, this episode names all 5 of them. Now, the men who actually wrote this thing, because the name on the cover is wrong, and the real story is better. In 1563, a Dutch physician named Johann Weyer published an enormous book called De Praestigiis Daemonum, on the tricks of demons. Weyer had studied under Cornelius Agrippa and served as court physician to the Duke of Cleves, and his argument was, for the century he was living in, close to reckless. The old women being dragged to trial across Europe were not criminals, he wrote. They were ill, confused, frightened and coerced, and burning them was murder committed by magistrates. He spent hundreds of pages on it. To the 1577 edition he attached an appendix, 69 spirits, set out with their ranks, their appearances, their legions, and the services they perform. He gave it the title Pseudomonarchia Daemonum, which means the counterfeit kingdom of demons. Counterfeit is doing real work in that title. Weyer's position was that the whole apparatus was a fraud, and that printing the fraud in full was the fastest way to expose it. Hold that thought for the next 400 years of this story. It is about to happen a second time, in English, to a man who thought he was helping. If banned grimoires, the men who compiled them, and the spirits they catalogued are the reason you clicked, make sure to subscribe to the Heretic Codex. Now, what happened when Weyer's appendix crossed the channel? 7 years later, an English country gentleman named Reginald Scot did the same thing in English. The Discovery of Witchcraft, 1584, is a furious, funny, skeptical book that explains conjuring tricks in order to show that the marvels people were being executed over were sleight of hand. Scot translated Weyer's list into English almost entire. He, too, meant it as an exhibit for the defense. It did not stay one. Tradition says King James ordered every copy of Scot's book burned when he came to the English throne, and that story gets repeated everywhere without anybody producing a contemporary record of the order. Treat it as a story. What survives is better anyway. In 1597, the king published a book of his own, Demonology, and went after Scot by name, in the preface, for denying that witchcraft existed at all. A head of state stopping to answer a country gentleman in print beats a bonfire nobody can find. From Scot, the list moved into English manuscript circles, and by the 17th century, it was being copied out with a great deal added. The seals, the conjurations, the timing, the equipment. Those manuscripts sit in the British Library, and you can go and look at the pages. In 1904, 2 men, Samuel Liddell MacGregor Mathers and Alistair Crowley, printed the first section of that compilation as the Book of the Goetia of Solomon the King. That is the text now sitting in every occult shop and half the internet. It is early modern English magic, wearing a Hebrew king's name, and the honest version of the story is more interesting than the advertised one. So here is how to read one entry, because 72 of them only blur together if nobody teaches you the fields first. Every entry gives a rank: king, prince, duke, marquis, earl or count, president, and exactly one knight. Those are not infernal categories. They are the titles of a European royal court and an imperial court, borrowed wholesale, which tells you what the compilers thought hell was shaped like. Several spirits carry 2 ranks at once, and the book never explains why. The hierarchy is a fiction, and it is a careful one. Then a form, the shape the spirit takes when he arrives, and very often a second shape he can be made to take on request, which is usually a man. Then a number of legions under his command, and last, an office, the thing he is good for, which is the actual product on sale. Then there is the part the modern reader skips and the compilers were serious about. The book says the spirits lie, not as a general warning, but as specific entries. Several of the 72 are described as liars, who will not answer truthfully unless they are forced into the triangle drawn outside the circle. The circle is the magician's protection, the triangle is the interrogation room, and the whole ritual apparatus exists because the text does not trust its own subjects. Whatever else it is, this is a book with a threat model. What is not known is worth saying too. Nobody can tell you why these particular 72, in this particular order, with these particular legion counts. Some names are corrupted Hebrew, some are Canaanite gods demoted, some are Egyptian, some are anybody's guess. The seals appear in the manuscripts with no explanation of where they came from. Which raises the 3 questions the rest of this episode answers. Who is at the top of this hierarchy? What does the list actually promise a person who reads it? And where did 72 come from, when the first version of the list had 69? The chapter markers under this video will take you to any spirit you came for. The kings first. 9 of the 72 hold the rank of king, and the book puts one of them at the head of the whole catalogue. The first spirit is Baal, a king, 66 legions, and he arrives with 3 heads, a toad, a man and a cat, speaking in a hoarse voice. His office is invisibility, which is a modest thing to ask of the first king in hell. Kill one confusion straight away, because it is the most common mistake made about this list. Baal is not Beelzebub. The names sit near each other. They share a root in the Canaanite word for Lord, and popular writing has been merging them for 2 centuries. In this catalogue they are not the same figure, and Beelzebub is not among the 72 at all. It is not a translation error. It is not a lost manuscript. 2 different traditions produced 2 different figures out of one old title, and the Goetia kept only one of them. The 9th spirit, Paimon, is the biggest name in the catalogue after Baal himself, and the entry knows it. He rides a dromedary in a crown, preceded by a host of spirits sounding trumpets and clashing cymbals, and the racket gets described before he does. He teaches all arts and sciences and every secret thing, and the text says he is obedient to Lucifer. 200 legions, the largest command in the book. Then Beleth, the 13th, and this is where the grimoire stops describing and starts instructing. Beleth arrives furious, on a pale horse, with every kind of music sounding before him. The text tells the magician that this king comes forth in a temper deliberately, and that the exorcist must hold his hazel wand out, drive him into the triangle, and on no account show fear. Do it wrong, and you get nothing. Get it right, and the entry says he will be courteous. The first king in the list sells invisibility. The 13th sells love, and he tests your nerve before he sells you anything. 85 legions. King Person, the 20th, has a lion's face and carries a viper, riding a bear with trumpets going before him. He knows hidden things, finds treasure, tells past, present, and future, and gives good familiars. 22 legions. Now the entry the whole episode has been walking towards, and the number inside it is either the best coincidence in the book or not one at all. The 32nd spirit is Asmodee, a king with 3 heads, bull, man, and ram, a serpent's tail, the feet of a goose, riding a dragon with a lance and a banner, breathing fire. He gives the ring of virtues, teaches arithmetic, astronomy, geometry, and every handicraft, answers truly, makes men invisible, and shows where treasure is hidden. The text says he must be called by name, bareheaded, or he will deceive. And he commands 72 legions, exactly 72, the number of the catalogue itself, sitting inside one of its own entries, roughly halfway down the list. What that is doing there is the last question this episode takes. King Vine, the 45th, is also an earl, and appears as a lion on a black horse holding a viper. He discovers hidden things, identifies witches, builds towers, throws down stone walls, and makes the sea rough with storms. 36 legions. Balaam, the 51st, has the same 3 heads as Asmodee, bull, man, and ram, with a serpent's tail and eyes burning with fire, and he rides a bear with a goshawk perched on him. 40 legions. He gives true answers about what was and what is coming, makes men invisible, and makes them witty. Zagan, the 61st, is king and president together. He appears as a bull with griffin wings, and his office is transformation, wine into water, blood into wine, water into wine, any metal into a coin of that same metal. He makes fools wise. 33 legions. And the last king, the 68th spirit, is Belial. The text says he was created immediately after Lucifer, which makes him the second thing that ever went wrong. He appears as 2 beautiful angels, sitting in a chariot of fire, speaking pleasantly. He hands out senatorships and political favor, and gives excellent familiars. He commands 80 legions, and the entry adds a condition none of the other kings carry. He must be given offerings and gifts, or he will not answer truly. Even hell's second creation works on retainer. 9 kings. Now the largest rank in the book, and the one where the offices start getting strange. Keep Weyer in the room for this stretch, because most of what follows is his wording. The shapes, the legions, the trades. The physician wrote them down first, in Latin, as evidence for a court that was burning people. The dukes are the working demons of this book, 23 of them, and between the crocodiles and the mermaids they carry the 2 entries most people quote when they have never opened the thing, the one whose breath you have to shield yourself from, and the one who was promised heaven and cheated out of it. Agares, the 2nd spirit, is an old man riding a crocodile, a hawk perched on his hand. He teaches all languages, brings runaways back, causes earthquakes, and grants noble titles. 31 legions. Valifor, the 6th, is a lion with the head of an ass. He is a good familiar, and he tempts the people who use him into stealing. 10 legions, less than any other duke. Barbatos, the 8th, arrives with 4 noble kings and their troops. He lets a man understand the singing of birds, the barking of dogs, and the sound of water, finds treasure hidden by enchantment, and reconciles enemies. Before the fall he was ranked among the virtues. 30 legions. Gushan, the 11th, has the face of a baboon. He tells past, present, and future, explains the meaning of any question put to him, reconciles friends, and hands out honor and dignity. 40 legions. Notice what people were actually asking for. Not power, a job title, a lost dog, a neighbor who will speak to them again. Eligos, the 15th, is a goodly knight carrying a lance, an ensign, and a serpent. He discovers hidden things and knows what is coming in war, including which side wins. 60 legions. Zepar, the 16th, comes in red clothing and soldier's armor. He makes women love men. He also makes them barren, and the book puts both in the same sentence without comment. 26 legions. Bathin, the 18th, is a strong man with a serpent's tail on a pale horse. He knows what herbs and gemstones are good for, and he moves people suddenly from one country to another, 30 legions. Salos, the 19th, is a gallant soldier riding a crocodile in a ducal crown, and the text calls him peaceable. He causes love between men and women, 30 legions. Aim, the 23rd, has 3 heads, a serpent, a man with 2 stars on his forehead, and a calf, riding a viper and carrying a lit firebrand. With that firebrand he sets cities, castles, and great places on fire. He also makes men witty and answers private questions. 26 legions. Bune, the 26th, is a 3-headed dragon, dog, griffin, and man, with a high and pleasant voice. He moves the dead, gathers them at their tombs, gives riches, and makes men wise and eloquent. 30 legions. Berith, the 28th, is a soldier in red on a red horse wearing a golden crown. He gives true answers, turns all metals into gold, and hands out dignities. The text calls him a great liar in the same breath, and tells the magician to wear a silver ring the whole time he is speaking. 26 legions. Astaroth, the 29th, is a hurtful angel riding an infernal dragon with a viper in his right hand. He speaks truly about what has happened and what is coming, uncovers every secret, and teaches the liberal sciences. And the entry carries the single most human instruction in the whole book. His breath is unbearable, so the magician is told to hold the magic ring in front of his own face for protection. 40 legions. Somewhere in the 17th century, a copyist decided that the thing his readers most needed to know about a fallen angel of the first hierarchy was that he smells. Focalor, the 41st, is a man with the wings of a griffin, and he has power over wind and sea. He drowns men and overturns warships. If the magician commands him not to, he will not, which is a strange kind of mercy to have written into a contract. And then the entry ends on the saddest line in the Goetia. He hoped to return to heaven after 1,000 years, and he was deceived in that hope. 30 legions. Vepar, the 42nd, is a mermaid. He guides warships, makes the sea appear full of vessels that are not there, and kills men in 3 days by filling their wounds with worms. On command, he heals the same wounds instantly. 29 legions. Read the sea entries together, and something surfaces. Drowned crews, phantom fleets, wounds that go septic in 3 days. Whoever compiled this stretch of the list knew what happened to sailors. Yuval, the 47th, is a mighty dromedary who takes human shape and speaks Egyptian. Though the text notes he speaks it badly, he procures the love of women and makes peace between enemies. He was of the order of potestates, 37 legions. Crocel, the 49th, appears as an angel and speaks mystically of hidden things. He teaches geometry, makes the sound of great rushing waters, warms water, and finds hot springs. Also formerly of the potestates, 48 legions. Alake, the 52nd, is a soldier on a great horse with a lion's face, red skin and flaming eyes, and a voice the text calls hoarse and big. All that apparatus and what he sells is a course in astronomy. 36 legions. Murmur, the 54th, is duke and earl, riding a griffin in a ducal crown, with 2 ministers blowing trumpets ahead of him. He teaches philosophy and forces the souls of the dead to appear and answer questions. 30 legions. Gremory, the 56th, is described as a beautiful woman wearing a duchess's crown tied about the waist, riding a great camel. The book uses male pronouns for her in the same paragraph and never resolves it. She tells past, present, and future, knows where treasure is buried, and procures the love of women, young and old. 26 legions. Of all 72 entries, this is the one the illustrators have never been able to leave alone. Vapula, the 60th, is a lion with griffin wings, and he makes people good at their trade, handicrafts, professions, philosophy, and the sciences. 36 legions. Horus, the 64th, arrives as a terrible leopard and takes the shape of a man with fiery eyes. He answers truly only inside the triangle, and outside it he lies about everything. Forced, he talks about the creation of the world, about divinity, and about how he and the other spirits fell. He also destroys the magician's enemies by fire. 36 legions. Amdusius, the 67th, appears as a unicorn, then as a man, and he brings music with him, trumpets and instruments sounding loudly, with nothing playing them. He bends trees at will. 29 legions. Dantalion, the 71st, is a man showing the faces of every man and woman at once, holding a book in his right hand. He can teach any subject there is, declares the secret thoughts of anybody, changes those thoughts, and shows you the likeness of any person on earth, wherever they happen to be. 36 legions. The most invasive entry in the catalogue is also one of the last. That is the Duke's Bench, 7 princes next, and one of them is the only spirit in the whole catalogue written down as trustworthy. Vasigo, the 3rd spirit, is described as good by nature, and his office is finding things past, things to come, and objects that have been lost or hidden. 26 legions. Remember his name, because he is one of the 4 the arithmetic is about. Citri, the 12th, arrives with a leopard's face and griffin wings, then becomes very beautiful on request. He inflames men with love of women, and women with love of men, and the text says he will make them show themselves naked. 60 legions. Ippos, the 22nd, is earl and prince, an angel with a lion's head, the feet of a goose, and the tail of a hare. He knows past and future, and makes men witty and bold. 36 legions. Garp, the 33rd, is prince and president, and comes with 4 great kings walking in front of him. He makes men insensible and ignorant, teaches philosophy, causes love and hatred, and carries people at speed between kingdoms. 66 legions. Stolas, the 36th, is a mighty raven who becomes a man. He teaches astronomy and the virtues of herbs and precious stones. 26 legions. Orobas, the 55th, appears as a horse and becomes a man on command. He answers truly about the past, the future, divinity, and the creation of the world, and hands out titles and the favor of enemies. And the entry says something no other entry says. He is faithful to the magician, and he will not allow him to be tempted by any other spirit. In a book whose central assumption is that everything in it lies, one spirit is written down as a bodyguard. 20 legions. Seir the 70th is a beautiful man on a winged horse. He crosses the earth in the twinkling of an eye, brings whatever is asked for, finds thefts and hidden treasure, and the text calls him good-natured and willing to do anything the magician wants. 26 legions. Hold on to him as well. 15 Marquises next, and 2 of them expect to go home. Samagina, the 4th spirit, is a little horse who becomes a man with a hoarse voice. He teaches the liberal sciences and gives an account of souls that died in sin. 30 legions. Ammon, the 7th, is a wolf with a serpent's tail vomiting flame, who takes the head of a raven with the teeth of a dog. He tells past and future, procures love, and reconciles enemies. 40 legions. Larage, the 14th, is an archer in green with a bow and quiver. He causes battles, and he makes arrow wounds putrefy. 30 legions. An archer in Lincoln green who poisons wounds is not a demon out of the Near East. That is an English forest, and it walked into the manuscript with the copyists. Naberius, the 24th, is a black crane fluttering around the circle with a hoarse voice. He makes men cunning in every art, rhetoric above all, and he restores lost honors and dignities. 19 legions, and exactly one other spirit in this book commands as few. Ronove, the 27th, is Marquis and Earl, a monster holding a staff. He teaches rhetoric and languages, gives good servants, and wins the favor of friends and enemies. 19 legions, the same as Naberius, and the two of them share the smallest command among the Marquises. Fornius, the 30th, is a great sea monster, and he sells exactly what Ronove sells: rhetoric, tongues, a good name, the affection of enemies. 29 legions. Nobody has ever explained the duplication. Marquises, the 35th, is a wolf with griffin wings and a serpent's tail, vomiting fire, who becomes a man on request. He is a strong fighter and answers truly, and once he stood among the dominations. Then the entry does the thing that has kept this spirit in the imagination for 400 years. He told Solomon, it says, that after 1200 years he expected to be let back into the seventh throne, heaven. The compiler wrote down a demon's release date and passed on without comment. 30 legions. Phoenix, the 37th, appears as a phoenix and sings in the voice of a child. And here the book gives an instruction that reads like a safety notice. The magician must not listen to the singing. He must command the spirit into human shape and keep him there, and the entry says that with steady insistence he will comply. He is an excellent poet and obedient, and he carries the same hope as Marquises. 1200 years, then the seventh throne, 20 legions. The two demons in this catalogue who expect to go home are also the two the text likes most. Sabnok, the 43rd, is an armed soldier with a lion's head on a pale horse. He builds towers, castles and cities, and fills them with weapons, and he afflicts men with wounds full of worms. 50 legions. Shax, the 44th, arrives as a stock dove and speaks hoarsely. He takes away sight, hearing, and understanding, steals money out of kings' houses, and returns it 1200 years later, which is the sort of detail that makes you wonder who was writing this down. He is a great liar unless forced into the triangle, and inside it he tells the truth. 30 legions. Aureus, the 59th, is a lion with a serpent's tail riding a strong horse, holding two hissing serpents. He teaches the virtues of the stars and the mansions of the planets, transforms men, and hands out dignities. 30 legions. Andras, the 63rd, is an angel with the head of a black night raven, riding a strong black wolf, carrying a sharp, bright sword. His office is one line long: he sows discord, and then the entry adds the sentence that makes him the most feared spirit in the book. If the magician is not careful, Andras will kill him, and his companions with him. Every other entry describes a service. This one describes a hazard. 30 legions. Andrialphus, the 65th, is a peacock making a great noise, then a man. He teaches geometry, measurement, and astronomy, and he turns a man into a bird. 30 legions. Simechis, the 66th, is a valiant warrior on a black horse, and the text gives him a territory. He rules all the spirits in Africa. He teaches grammar, logic, and rhetoric, and finds lost and hidden things. 20 legions. Decarabia, the 69th, appears as a star inside a pentacle. He knows the virtues of every bird and every precious stone, and he makes the likeness of all birds fly around the magician and sing. 30 legions. 12 presidents, and this is the rank that teaches. If you want to know what an educated man in 1600 was prepared to risk his soul to learn, the answer is in the next 12 entries, and it is not what you would guess. Marbas, the 5th spirit, is a great lion who becomes a man. He answers on hidden things, causes disease and cures it, transforms people, and teaches the mechanical arts. 36 legions. Bua, the 10th, will not appear at all unless the sun sits in Sagittarius, and that is the only calendar condition anywhere in the book. He teaches philosophy, both the moral and the natural kind, along with logic and what herbs are good for. He heals every illness and gives good familiars. 50 legions. Bottis, the 17th, is president and earl, an ugly viper who becomes a man with great teeth, 2 horns and a sword. He tells past and future and reconciles enemies. 60 legions. Marax, the 21st, is Earl and President, a great bull with a man's face. Astronomy again, the liberal arts again, good familiars, and a working knowledge of herbs and gemstones. 30 legions. Glacia Labolus, the 25th, is a dog with griffin wings. He can teach any art or science on the spot, tells what has been and what is coming, causes love, and makes a man invisible. And the same entry calls him the author of bloodshed and manslaughter. 36 legions. The book puts the teacher and the killer in one paragraph and moves on. Foras, the 31st, appears as a strong man in ordinary human shape, which by this point in the list is remarkable on its own. He knows what every herb and every stone can do, makes men invisible, gives long life and eloquence, finds treasure and recovers lost things, and he teaches logic and ethics. Ethics, 29 legions. Somewhere in an English manuscript, a compiler wrote down that a demon can teach you the difference between right and wrong, and left it there for anyone to argue with. Malphas, the 39th, comes as a crow and takes a man's shape, speaking hoarsely. He builds houses and high towers, brings craftsmen together, throws down the buildings of enemies, and gives good familiars. He accepts sacrifice willingly, and then deceives whoever offered it. 40 legions. Hagenti, the 48th, is a great bull with griffin wings. He makes men wise, turns all metal into gold, and turns wine into water, and water into wine. 33 legions. Cameo, the 53rd, is a thrush who becomes a man carrying a sharp sword, and he seems to answer out of burning ashes. Under him, a person can follow the voices of birds, cattle, dogs, and rushing water. 30 legions. Oz, the 57th, is a leopard who takes human shape. He makes men skilled in the liberal sciences and answers on divine and secret things, and then his office turns cruel. He transforms a person into any shape and makes them believe completely that they are that thing. 3 legions, the smallest command of all 72. Amy, the 58th, appears as a flaming fire before taking a man's shape. He makes people expert in astrology, hands over good familiars, and betrays the treasure that other spirits are guarding. 36 legions, a demon informing on other demons. Even the hierarchy does not trust itself. Valak, the 62nd, appears as a small child with angel's wings riding a 2-headed dragon. He answers truly about hidden treasure, and he tells the magician where serpents are and delivers them harmless into his hands. 38 legions. The gentlest image in the catalogue belongs to a spirit who handles snakes. 5 earls left, and then the one knight. Furfur, the 34th spirit, is a hart with a fiery tail, and the entry states plainly that he will not tell the truth outside the triangle. Compelled into it, he takes the form of an angel and speaks with a hoarse voice. He causes love between husband and wife, raises thunder, lightning and great storms, and answers on secret and divine things. 26 legions. Halfas, the 38th, is the second stock dove in the book, horse like the first. He builds towers, fills them with weapons and ammunition, and sends men of war wherever he is told to send them. 26 legions. Raum, the 40th, is another crow taking human shape. He steals treasure out of kings' houses, destroys cities and the standing of men, reports on the past and the future, and causes love between friends and enemies. He once stood among the thrones. 30 legions. Bifrons, the 46th, appears as a monster and takes human shape. He teaches astrology, geometry and the arts, and the virtues of stones and woods. And then his office turns strange and specific. He moves dead bodies from one grave to another, and he sets what look like candles burning on top of the graves. 6 legions. And the 72nd spirit, the last entry in the whole catalogue, is Andromalius, an earl holding a great serpent. He brings back a thief and the stolen goods with him, uncovers wickedness and underhand dealing, punishes thieves, and finds hidden treasure. 36 Legions. The book that opens with a king selling invisibility closes with a policeman, which leaves one spirit, alone in a rank of his own. Furcus, the 50th, is the only knight among the 72. He is a cruel old man with a long beard and white hair, riding a pale horse, carrying a sharp weapon in his hand. He teaches philosophy, astrology, rhetoric, logic, and reading palms and fire. 20 Legions. Nobody has ever explained why there is exactly one knight in hell, and the manuscripts do not offer a reason. That is all 72, named, ranked, and counted, which brings back the arithmetic from the top of the episode. Weyer counted 69 spirits in 1577. The Goetia ended up with 72, in a list otherwise copied almost word for word. That gap is a subtraction and an addition, and both of them have names. The subtraction first. Weyer's catalogue contains a spirit named Pruflas, a great prince and duke around the Tower of Babylon, appearing as a flame, causing quarrels and lies and wars. He is not in the Ars Goetia. Somewhere in the copying he fell out, and the manuscripts give no reason. Weyer himself, of all people, notes that his own source was doubtful about this one. So 69 becomes 68. Then the additions, and there are 4. Vasago, the good-natured prince who finds lost things. Seer, the beautiful man on the winged horse who crosses the world before you finish asking. Dantalion, with his book and his borrowed faces. And Andromalius, the last entry, who catches thieves. Not one of them is in Weyer. All 4 are in the Goetia. 68 plus 4 is 72, and the arithmetic of the most famous demon list in the world closes exactly. Now the real question, which is why anybody would bother. Nothing forced the number up. The compilers could have left it at 69, or dropped to 60, or run to 100. They landed on 72, and 72 was not a neutral figure to a 17th century English magician reading his Bible and his Kabbalah. Jewish tradition had carried that number for centuries already. 72 elders, 72 nations of the world, and, most of all, a hidden name of God worked out of 3 consecutive verses in Exodus that each contains 72 letters. Against that, a file of 72 demons looks like a deliberate opposite, a shadow census, matched name for name. That reading is old, and it is not something modern occultists invented. There are English manuscripts of this material that print the 72 spirits in one column and the 72 angels of the divine name in the column beside them, paired off 1 to 1. It is also, strictly speaking, an inference. No compiler ever wrote down why he added 4 names and dropped 1. What can be said is that the number was already sacred long before any list reached it, that this list arrived at it anyway by losing 1 name and gaining 4, and that a spirit sitting halfway down the catalogue commands 72 legions of his own. Joke or fingerprint, the compilers left it in. Which leaves Johann Weyer where he has been standing all night, holding the wrong end of his own book. He printed the catalogue to kill it. Within a century it had walked out of his appendix, picked up 4 names to reach a sacred number, acquired seals and conjurations he never wrote, and hired itself out to the exact trade he spent his career trying to shut down. The women in the market squares got no help from either of them. Every copy of the Goetia sold today descends from an argument against believing in it. There is no version of this book's story in which the 2 skeptics who built it win. 72 spirits went past tonight, and one of them stuck. The shape, the office, the legion count, something. Let me know in the comments. And if it was Furcus, say so, because somebody has to account for the night. And if you want the king whose name is on the cover, the library here already holds the older book, the Testament of Solomon, where the demons are not a catalogue yet but a workforce, hauling stone for a temple under a ring that could compel every one of the 72 by name. Make sure to subscribe to the Heretic Codex.